Okay, I'll call the meeting to order for the Finance Committee, March 24th, 2025, 6:32 p.m. on Zoom. So I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we gather today on the ancestral homelands of the Coast Salish peoples, and that Sudden Valley Community Association stands against racism of all colors. Okay, so let me get the official roll call here as far as attendance. So I'm here, Taimi's here, Rick Gray is here, Kathy Hallet's here, Mary Quinn, and we're having Jean Maixner join us as an oncoming member. The board hasn't met since she signed up, and so when that appointment happens at the board level, she'll be an official voting member. So she's observing tonight to kind of get up to speed again. She was a finance committee person in the past, and so we're glad to have her back.
Yeah, welcome back, Jean, even though it's not official.
Thank you. Yeah, happy to help.
Glad to have you, Jean.
Yeah, we really appreciate that. Let's see, Rob, are you on? I know he said he could come, but he's not on yet, so hopefully he can join us in a bit. Okay, so I kind of begged and promised both at the same time that we'd try to have a short meeting since we had to kind of do a do-over, but we'll end up having a pretty much our regular meeting, but I'm going to try to move the action items to the front. So if you have other obligations you need to sign off, you may have to miss out on some of Joel's presentation, but okay, any additions to the agenda? Hearing none. All in favor of adopting the agenda as circulated? Say aye.
Adopt the agenda.
Aye. Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Okay.
Aye.
And opposed? All right, thank you. Let's see, the minutes were circulated previously. Any additions or corrections to the February 19th, 2025 Finance Committee meeting minutes?
I
I'm
guess
sorry,
not. So
I can't.
I was just going to say I move to approve the minutes.
Okay,
Oh, second.
all
That's
right.
right.
All
Yeah.
in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Same sign. All right, we've approved our minutes. Thank you. All right, so we had kind of a working session last time. We couldn't really vote on anything, but as you know, we have a capital under new business 6A, the capital request from the roads regarding the funding of 2 bridges. So in the agenda packet and on the website for the Finance Committee, we have addendum 1, which has descriptions of the 2 bridges. Last year, we approved for the design and permits. This year, we're following up to complete those projects, and that's what this capital request is for. Mike Brock informed us last time that the bridge going into Area Z is not able to carry the load that it needs to service our trucks, especially during the snow season, during for the plows and that. And so that what that ends up doing is they end up having to drive a lot farther to get around to all the different gates on the upper end there. They can still do it, but it slows them down tremendously. So the Area Z bridge that goes down on Roy Road off of Honeycomb is of utmost importance to get that one opened up, just to make their life a lot easier and save our staff time and travel. The other bridge up by Polo Park, crossing Beaver Creek up there between Sunnyside Lane and Lost Lake Lane, River Ridge Loop. I drove up there this afternoon, and that bridge is definitely sinking. That he described the issue with that bridge is it has an 8-foot corrugated metal culvert that is collapsing, and during the high water season, because of that collapsing, it's not able to allow all the water to get through in a efficient manner. So it's also important to open that up. They're actually going to take the culvert out and just have a bare bank stream, creek stream. It's the side opened up so that the water can move more freely. So, any questions about those two bridges? It was quite a lengthy packet of information, and a lot of it was kind of engineering over my head, but it's in our roads plan. It's in our roads budget. We've got the money. My feeling is that we try to keep on schedule and keep these bridges going and approve it. The
I had a couple questions, Rick.
Yes, Rick.
So, like the one with the 8-foot culvert,
Yes.
so, looking at, the drawings and the pictures and stuff. So do they
Mhm.
have to go in and remove that foundation, that concrete that's on the bottom, that's holding that culvert up?
I think what I understand in reading it is they're gonna, I don't know if they're gonna take that all out. But they're gonna drop in a prefab metal bridge is my understanding. I don't know exactly the engineering in terms of how that drops in there.
Okay. So I guess my question, so whatever the county or Department of Ecology or whatever,
Yeah,
that's all of their requirements are included in this estimate, is that correct?
that's my understanding. Yes, it's included the um and part of the reason, part of the urgency is it is because it is, I think, a migratory fish pathway,
Right.
and so
Yeah, it is, yeah.
yeah. So
So that's
but
all,
yeah,
we're, okay, I just want to make sure we've covered all our bases there. Thank you.
yes, that I'm pretty sure that's exactly right.
Okay.
I was just trying to look and see if they talked about.
Because I was just curious if they're gonna set that bridge in, do they have to do any mitigation to the waters? And if they had to remove the foundation because it is a fish
Mm-hmm.
stream,
Yeah,
as long as all that's taken into consideration, that's for the design, I'm good with it. I just want to make sure that that was there.
yeah,
I'm assuming it was. I'm
right.
curious, I guess, more for my own knowledge than anything else. So
Yeah, let's see. Well, I'll double check with Tyler, but I'm pretty sure that that's the case.
okay, thanks.
My
Mhm.
questions was, I'm a little confused by the numbers, because we do have 131.03 and 84 cents approved previously. So when we're looking to recommend this number, is the 1,157,088 and cents, is that the total amount? Like, it should be less the 131 and $3 that we already approved. So I thought it should be authorizing 1,026,8469 because we've already approved the 131. So do you know, has anybody given you that information?
Yeah, Joel, can you jump on there?
Oh,
I thought I saw
What
him.
was that, Rick?
Yeah, so the question that we had about the 131 being previously approved for the, I think that was a design and permitting, right?
Yeah,
And
that's correct.
and then I think the wording on this
Yeah.
included some of that. And so we wanted to, or does it? I guess that's the question.
Let me see here. I'm gonna go back to this real quick here.
yeah. So Joel, are we actually approving the 1,157 or is it 1,026,000?
I believe it's just the 1157. I'm pulling up that right now.
So that doesn't include the 131 that's already been approved?
No, it won't.
So the total cost is 1,157 plus the 131. That includes the design. Is that correct, Joel?
Well, because like for example, in this, just looking at Tyler's or Michael's capital request, like up on the second paragraph when it talks about the background, the very first sentence, SVCA's 2025 capital budget includes $1,202,425. That is the amount on in the 2025 column for roads. That's the Area Z bridge and the culvert. Let's see here.
So if I
Area Z
add
bridge
that,
and the culvert 4. So it looks like they're just asking for less than that at this point.
okay, because if I add the 1,157 and then the 131, I get 1.288, which is another number again. It's higher than the budget, which is, I mean, that happens all the time, but just trying to figure out what
Again,
numbers we're
timing,
actually
you add
approving.
what? Say that again, what you said, Taimi?
Okay, well, if I take the 1,157,000 that is proposed to authorize or to, or to approve, and then I add the 131 that's already been approved by the board, I come up with 1.288091. So
What's
it's above budget.
Yeah, so that $131,004 that was approved, obviously previously prior year. And that is under the 2024 column for the capital budget. And then under the 2025 capital budget, there's two other amounts, 182,000 for the Area Z bridge replacement and an additional 1,020,425 for the culvert number 4 bridge replacement. So essentially, just those two additional amounts for the actual bridge replacements, not including what's already been approved, that design and permitting. But those two bridges, so 1,202,425 could also be approved and comply with the capital budget, so to speak. So this looks like they're asking less than that, since they're asking 1,157,089 essentially. But the capital budget for 2025 for these two bridges, the actual, not the design and permitting, which was a separate approval, but this is for the two bridges itself, the actual bridge replacement, 1,202,425 set aside in 2025 according to the capital budget. So this looks like, yes, so under their motion, move the board of directors approve the allocation 1,157,089 essentially for purchasing and installing 2 pre-engineered steel bridges. So that is actually less than what the capital budget says that they could spend in 2025.
Yeah, what I saw on one of the requests was a recalculation of the taxes that was at a slightly lower rate than was predicted last year, or when that roads 10-year roads plan was instituted. So if you look at lines 28 and 29 on the budget that was, and the roads 10-year roads plan that was
Right.
presented at the budget in November, lines 28 and 29 on the roads, it are the 182 and the 1020425 that Joel just referred to. So I think it's a little bit lower because some of the taxes were a little bit, they were calculated, they were estimated at 9% and they were actually only 8.8%. And so it dropped it down a little bit. So instead of 1.157 million, it's it is instead of 1.202 million, it's 1.157. So it's 45,000 less.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, thanks. It looked to me like it was we were going to go over, but it's not an easy capital request to be looking at. There's a lot of information here.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's right. Yeah. So the background on the second addendum, looking at the background, the first line is the amount that was set aside in the roads budget, the 1.202425. And then when it asks for the actual request, it's less.
Yeah. Yeah, because looking at this capital request, so they're requesting a change order to the existing roads capital project code 9924.6, which that is the one that was approved for the design and permitting for this access bridge and the culvert 4 bridge, which was the $131,004. So that amount was already approved. So now they're
Right.
asking a change order, this amount of $1,157,089 to be added to that existing roads project code. So then the question is, kind of like just summarizing what Rick just said. In 2025, so the actual bridge work itself now that we're done with the design and permitting, then the 2025 roads plan says in 2025 they were budgeted to spend up to $1,202,425 for these 2 bridges, and they're asking $1,157,089. So it's actually less than what's on the roads plan for 2025.
Right. Yeah, that it's a little confusing because they don't match up like they normally do.
Yeah.
But that's exactly right. Yeah. Yeah, you can
Right.
see on line 25 in the same roads capital planning, the design and permitting, the 131,004 from last year. So it's not a part of the dollars that were allocated for this year. It's a separate amount.
Right.
So we're actually coming in a little under if they can meet their current estimate.
Yeah.
We do have a hand raised from somebody. I thought Jean, was that yours? Or?
Yeah, it was mine. It was an accident. I was gonna just make a comment that I think Rick explained it pretty well, that the difference is probably a tax issue or a tax change, that they had recorded the difference. So it'd just be nice if they sort of explain the difference in the prices when they write up their proposals. But Rick made a lot of sense with why we have 2 different numbers.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, great, thanks.
I'm gonna ask you another question, and I know you probably, I don't know who can answer that, and this is probably not a fair question to ask you. But I noticed it, and then I noticed that Linda noticed it as well. We have construction management from P&W Services of $38,340, which is 5 hours a day, which seems really high. And I think that we should ask to have that clarified, because these companies that are doing the work, I would think that they have their own people overseeing that, and I don't know why we need someone almost full-time watching these companies doing the work.
So, which page are you?
I'm looking at
Is
PNW's, it says project scope letter 2025 bridge funding.
okay, yes,
It is
I think I
dated
see it.
February 16th.
Okay, so you're looking at line 3 there?
Well, I'm looking at the little construction and management chart there. It's his cover page. Somewhere in there, when I was looking today, it said 5 hours a day. That just seems excessive to me, and I'd like to have that clarified. Why
Okay,
does
let's see.
Tyler need to be having someone there 5 hours a day? These people um should be able to oversee their own projects.
Yeah, I guess I don't see the hours.
Um,
It must be
It's
I
on,
saw
deeper
it
in.
somewhere, but if you
it's
just
on a
look at his cover
spreadsheet.
page.
It's on a spreadsheet that has tasks on the left and description in the middle and hours and estimated cost. That explains the
Yeah.
36,855 for construction management.
Okay, yes, okay, I see that page. 5 hours per day, yeah.
Yeah, nine-week construction period, 45 working days at 5 hours per day.
Okay, well, we can certainly ask about that. Let's see if I can.
I think someone needs to justify that.
Yeah. So this is PNW's management on top of Tyler's management. I mean, yeah, I mean, because it doesn't Tyler kind of oversee that too in a more global way?
Yeah, it just seems a lot. I mean, I know that it's, these are estimates and it's gonna be put to bid. Um, but it's just kind of, that just seems, when you have that already put in there, it just seems a little excessive to me.
Yeah, and not knowing exactly what it involves, it does sound high. Yeah, I'll have to say. We'll check it out.
Maybe put that in our recommendation, that be, looked at, that why we need
Oh,
that.
okay, sure. Let's see. Yeah, what we can do that. Just to confirm it. We can do that. So, yeah. Okay, yeah, that's a good question. Any other thoughts?
I had one question.
Mm-hmm.
So on these bids, it says that we're going to, the bridges are owner supplied. And just because
Right, we're purchasing them, yes, correct.
who does that? Just out of curiosity.
I'm not sure the mechanics. I'm guessing Tyler oversees that, but I don't know that for a fact.
Okay, so obviously we did it on the bridge at number 8 there by the gardens and the stuff, but so I was just curious how we do that now, but
I think I recall reading that it was, yes, we were to purchase those direct, similar to what we had done in the past on, and I can't remember which bridge they were referring to, but
you were referring to that bridge between, 'cause I was looking at it, and it said,
um,
you know, 'cause I was looking at it, and it said, you know, 'cause I was looking at it, and it said, you know, 'cause I was looking at it, and it said, you know, 'cause I was looking at it, and it said, you know, 'cause I was looking at it, and it said, you know, 'cause I was looking at it, and it said, you know, 'cause I was looking at it, and it said, you know, 'cause I was looking at it, and it said, you know, 'cause I was looking at it, and it said, you know, 'cause I was looking at it, and it said, you know, 'cause I was looking at it, and it said, you know, 'cause I was looking at it, and it said, you know, 'cause I was looking at it, and it said, you know, 'cause I was looking at it, and it said, you know, 'cause I was looking at it, and it said, you know, 'cause I was looking at it, and it said, you know, where the library is on
Eight,
8.
9, between 8 and 9 there, yeah.
Yeah, that bridge.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
didn't know who, does our
Mr. Bridge?
do that, or does somebody on staff do that for us? That's what I was just curious.
I'm not sure the detail. I just
Okay.
know that we purchase it direct rather than purchase it through them, where then they add another little 10% or whatever, right?
Right, I
Yeah.
was just, and that was for my own edification and knowing how we're doing business these days, since I've been on.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Okay,
think it was. Let's see. I think it was.
Rick, Linda has her hand up.
Go ahead, Linda.
Can't see anything on this. It's kind of frustrating.
You're on mute, Linda.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay, so what you're looking at there is there are 2 bids for the individual bridges. And you have specific amounts that have been submitted to us for each of those bridges. What you're looking at is saying, yes, you're going to approve that we can order those bridges and the bridges will come to us. Then if you read Chinook's estimate, the rest of that is basically their idea of how much construction is going to cost. There is, and Rick should understand this, no hard bids on the construction. If you approve this, Tyler will then put out an RFP to three different construction companies to put in the bridge. That can come back higher. So the 1,100,000, whatever it is, we could see a change order if it goes beyond what we have in there left after we purchase the bridges.
Well, the bid should be collected before we purchase the bridges.
Well, if you read the thing, it's like they're gonna do it much like they did. It's easy to buy
Right.
pre-manufactured bridges. It's kind of how we did the Polo Park Bridge, and that was years ago, guys. But it's like you get them, they sit here down in Area Z or wherever. I think the one for the golf course sat kind of down there. But it's then there's another company, and if you look at the rest of that, it's from Chinook Engineering. It lists that then they'll do all the work they need to do to put in the different sides of the bridge and everything, and the materials that it sits on. They have to do fish stream work first, because that's a fish bearing stream. But then they'll come in and basically they'll put in all the different things they need for the bridge to sit on, much like they did the one over there by the library. And then they just simply, then they seat the bridge itself on the different sides of the creek and stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm just telling you to be aware, you have hard numbers on the 2 bridges. One's 120 some thousand and the other one's 132,000. Those are hard bids, and actually those can be executed and they can start getting the bridges here. I think one of them, the reason there was difference in sales taxes, it's coming from out of state. If you look where on the different letterheads, it comes up from out of state, and that must be their state tax that they had instead of ours. It's coming from Utah or someplace like that. I don't know off the top of my head. I don't have all the paperwork in front of me. I just want you guys to understand that, yes, there's two hard bids with hard numbers on the bridges themselves. However, the actually construction and how much that's going to cost us, Tyler will take that estimate and put that in there and then put out an RFP, and people will bid back. They will either come under bid, under the RFP, or they'll come over the RFP. That we don't know yet.
Okay.
Just be aware of that.
I gotta say what Linda's saying is very appropriate. And I appreciate that, Linda. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, Rick. I know you worked on our roads before when
Yeah.
I used to sit in on finance committee meetings.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, anyways, it would be really nice if this capital request explained just what Linda just explained.
Yeah.
I think the board would understand it better, just as we understand it better, thanks to her.
So does Chinook, would they be one of the bidders?
No, they're the engineering firm.
They put it out for bid to people that do that work.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I don't remember. We could probably look back, and it hasn't been that far back. You probably could find some old board packets where they actually had the bidders for the golf course, that one over by the library. And it's probably going to be one of those companies that can handle that sort of stuff. It's kind of specialized.
Yeah, but the Chinook, they put together this estimate just last month, February 14th, so it
Yes.
should be fairly close, I would think.
Yeah, and you don't know, and like I say, you don't know till you get the bids back.
Well,
And in
yeah,
theory, yes,
that's
it
right.
should be, but I just want you to know that's not a hard and fast number. And that part of that 1,157,000, whatever, part of that is those two bridges.
Right. Right.
And I would assume that if this gets approved by the board on Thursday and moves forward, they'll order those like as soon as possible.
Right.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that the bridges are there and nobody else comes in and wants a bridge and takes it out of our, because the bids are only good for so long.
Right.
Well, and the price of steel's potentially gonna go up, so.
Yep.
Or no, yeah, no
It
kidding.
makes sense to try to get that approved is.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah, so it looks like just for the bridges, the construction for the two metal bridges, 957,000.
In addition to the cost of the bridges, you're saying?
Well, meaning like looking at this here, so it's under P&W services letterhead here. It says bridge construction 957,000, rounding these numbers. Utility companies 50,000, construction management 38,340, engineering oversight 6,800, and 10% contingency. That's what adds up to that 1,157,089.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that $900,000 number already has a higher estimate for the cost of those bridges.
it says both of them are 168,000. And they say.
Yeah,
over.
but they're not. They're less than that. So in theory, it's just, I wish that Tyler would have put that in there since you've got hard numbers you're looking at rather than just an estimate.
Yeah, I wish
Because that's like almost 100 between the two, it's almost, I think, almost 100,000 difference in price that would give you towards just literally construction itself, not the bridges, the steel bridges.
Install price, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good price on the bridges.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm going to mute myself. I just wanted to share that all with you guys.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Linda.
Linda.
Okay, so from what I'm hearing, the estimated cost of the bridges are on the high side that are built into this overall estimate from Chinook Engineering. And the total comes in a little bit, the estimated total comes in a little bit lower than what we have set aside, but we may need every little bit of that wiggle room after the bids come in. We'll just have that is a little bit of an unknown, I guess. So we have, yeah, so that's interesting. But maybe they guessed high on those bridge prices because of the unstable cost of steel right now or unknown. Yeah. Sooner we get them built, sooner the better, I think, looks like. All right, any other concerns? So we have some pretty good ideas of what some of the known costs are, but actually some of those are estimated high, so we don't really have any hard costs. It's just a engineer's estimate. And they know more about bridges than I do, so have to kind of go with that. But knowing it that we don't have a firm number yet.
They do they do say that the project total is with inflation for 5 months. So they have probably, I mean, that's probably their high number. They've allowed for whatever could happen in the next 5 months.
Yeah. That's a good little cushion too. Good. Yeah.
And the
Well,
that 957,000 does include on Chinook's project quote their invoice. So it does include construction of the bridge and bridge installation.
right. It includes purchase of the bridge, right?
Yeah.
And installation
Bridge
of it.
installation is.
Yeah. It's separating out the bridge as an owner supplied component, but the cost of it is included in this estimate.
Yeah. Along with the installation of it.
Yes. So it does look like you're going to have some, to answer Rick's earlier question about foundation or supports for the bridge. They've got 112,000 for sheet pile foundation and wing walls on the Polo Park. Not so much on the other one. Oh no, it says concrete footers. Yeah, well, that's a smaller amount. 13,000. It sounds like more foundation work on the Polo Park Bridge than the other. Okay, well, so there, Michael Bennett did submit another proposal, an alternative proposal for just completing one of the bridges, the Area Z bridge. With the intent of potentially freeing up some money for other things, but my feeling is costs are just going to go up. I drove across that Polo Park Bridge, and it definitely it seems to me it's sinking. It doesn't look very solid. You might be able to push it out a year or two, but I just think costs are going to go up. We'd be probably ahead in the long run to take care of it now and not put it off. That's my thoughts. Anybody else have any thoughts about that? Did you have a chance to look at that other proposal?
To me, there's no point in throwing money at something that you're gonna have to fix later. Just get it done, right?
Yeah, especially we've already done the design and permitting and it's all set to go. And yeah, that just seems like the more prudent thing to do.
I would agree.
We can get overruled by the board, but we have to kind of come up with our recommendation, what we think is most prudent.
I guess I wonder if you're just going to do one bridge, if it makes more sense to do the one at Polo Park because it is failing so quickly. And the other one in Area Z, it's unclear to me how much you're saving by, I know you're saving time and the ability to get to roads during the snow time. But I guess if you measure one against the other, it almost seems like the Polo one is in more critical need of being fixed.
Well, yeah, actually, I felt like Mike Brock last week stated the reverse. He thought he was more concerned about the Area Z bridge because it no longer met the gross vehicle weight limit of many of the vehicles, and so I think he's basically closed it. It's not open at all.
Oh, okay.
So his feeling was he was more interested. Of course, that's that's his area, getting in and out of. But he was more interested in getting that one addressed, just for efficiency's sake on that. And I just know that it failed to pass the gross vehicle weight limits that they needed for their vehicles, especially when they're bringing in sand or gravel and stuff like that, heavy things.
Heavy stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there are cars and trucks that can go across it, but certainly the heavy ones, it sounds like, need to go around.
What it was rated at now, which cut down a lot of usefulness of it, but one thing with the new bridge, he did not state what the load factor would be for the new installation that I could see in the document.
Well, I don't recall seeing that either.
That'd be nice in the future if we're changing something else and the biggest piece of it is for a load factor.
Yeah,
We understand what the differences are.
right. Yeah, okay. Okay.
By the way, I
anyone
should also point out too, just in case someone had a question about this, sounds like they didn't, but just in case they did. The last page of this capital request, this addendum, shows you're looking at the 10-year CIP plan, basically the 10-year roads plan is what you're looking at from impact design. That 10-year plan is in the reserve study. Obviously, it's in the capital budget, like the roads budget is totally modeled after this 10-year plan. Now you'll notice some of the different, like we'll look at I'm talking about the Area Z bridge. It's just an easy number to look at. In the 2025 10-year plan, roads plan from impact design, it says 175,000. Now, if you look at our reserve study, you look at our 10-year plan capital spreadsheet, you'll see in 2025, the Area Z bridge is in there for 182,000. And that's because the impact design does not apply like an escalation rate per year versus the reserve study and the 10-year roads plan, meaning our actual roads budget. So basically I apply a 4% escalation clause per year to each one of these numbers. So when we got this plan, it was in 2024. And since that bridge, Area Z, 175,000 on the 10-year plan from impact design, to go from 2024 to 2025, that takes a 4% escalation, which that's why it's 182,000 in the reserve study and also on our 10-year capital budgeting spreadsheet.
Yeah, no, thanks for pointing that out, Joel. And I think that helps us keep most of our costs estimates going forward pretty
Yeah.
close. Yeah, that really helps out a lot.
Yeah, because when we got the roads plan, obviously, which goes out through 2033, like those aren't escalated. Those are just the costs as of when they did this plan in 2024. But the reserve study and our 10-year road spreadsheet, it fully escalates all these costs 4% per year to whatever year it's planned to be done.
Right. Okay, so I think we're ready to vote on a recommendation.
Okay, Rick, can I just point out something that's in the motion that needed to be changed? The motion as it reads is move that the Board of Directors approve, and the motion should say move that the Finance Committee recommend. Because we can't approve, we're not the Board of Directors.
Yeah,
That just
right,
hasn't been
right.
changed, so, I mean, you can make the motion or I can, but it just needs to be changed in that way.
Yeah, I can see that being interpreted. I mean, because the motion will be carried to the board. Our the there's on that page that lists the motion or states the motion. It says Finance Committee approval and Board of Directors approval. So, yeah, you're right. It probably would be more correct to say that we move that the Finance Committee recommend to the Board of Directors that they approve blah, 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 right?
Just move that the Finance Committee recommend the allocation of. You could just take Board of Directors approve and switch Finance Committee recommend, but however you want to read it, but we can't speak for the board.
Oh,
But we
absolutely,
can,
yeah. No,
yeah.
yeah,
So however you
it's
want to
just a
read it.
recommendation from the Finance Committee.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then,
Um,
so change below where it says Finance Committee approval, instead of motion, you put recommendation.
all right.
You can still leave that the same, from what I understand. It's just in the actual wording of the motion. We can't say that move that the Board of Directors approve because we're not the Board of Directors, we're just the committee.
Okay,
So we can't speak for them, but we can still
Right.
say we approve the motion.
okay.
Yeah, I think I would state it just to make it clear. I would say move that the Finance Committee recommend to the Board of Directors approval of the allocation of $1,157,088.53 from roads for purchasing and installing 2 pre-engineered steel bridges. And then, yeah, change Finance Committee approves recommendation or recommends.
Second that.
Any further discussion? Great. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, so we have recommended that. Great. So addendum number 3 has to do with the zero-turn mower. They've had two riding mowers in the past. The large one's still operating. The zero-turn one has been out of commission, I guess, for a while. And so to get back up to full complement of mowers, we have this requisition for a zero-turn mower, which was in our CRRF for replacement this year. So they have taken out bids and it's coming in under budget. The budgeted amount was 25,000 and they got a bid on equipment that they're satisfied with. That's coming in at 21,146. So it's mostly being used for these larger spaces, and this one works better for getting around trees and things, it sounded like. So fairly routine kind of replacement. It'll help keep the mowing caught up. Any questions about that?
I had a couple, Rick. First of all, the price says it doesn't include delivery. So I'm assuming there's
Oh,
maybe a delivery charge.
I missed that. Let's see.
If you look at the very bottom line of Schulten's proposal, this quote does not include delivery unless otherwise noted, and it's not otherwise noted.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, and the
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
motion is for the contract amount, so I don't know whether it includes delivery or doesn't include delivery. The other thing is, when it talks about warranty up there, it really gives a warranty about used equipment. We put a $100 90-day drivetrain warranty, money back guarantee on anything we sell over 20,000. So is that the same for new equipment as is used equipment? I mean, what kind of warranty? I don't know what kind of warranty we get on new equipment.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, I don't know that it, I didn't see anything about purchasing new, what the warranty is.
Right. So those were just a couple things I noted.
Yeah. Did the other quotes have warranties?
No.
They don't.
Mm-mm.
None of them really do. Okay, let's
Seems
see.
pretty straightforward. I think they bought another zero turn mower last year or the year before. But we do have a lot of grass in a lot of areas.
I guess I
This-
would think is that they would get some kind of warranty when they purchase it in the documents when they purchase it.
Yeah.
It's probably got an hour's warranty, which we're gonna burn through probably before the years.
Probably.
Point.
Anyways, the biggest thing is the price on delivery.
Yeah.
So the Torah one has delivery at 450, 468. The Torah also has a setup fee. I don't know if the other one has a setup fee or not.
Well, it does say, let's see, we put 100-hour 90-day drivetrain warranty on anything we sell. This is just from the equipment company in Linden.
But that's unused equipment.
Yeah, this is a
Oh.
new one, I think
So I'm
so.
assuming it would be more than that.
Yeah,
Right.
you'd hope you'd get
More than
3,000
100
hours or,
Yeah.
yeah, something like that. You hope.
Yeah, it would be good to know because they are heavily used equipment.
Yeah.
We could probably
Well, we can
Google.
certainly ask about that, but so do we want to hold back until we hear on warranty or delivery?
I mean, Kubota's a pretty well-known make. I would think Kubota itself has a warranty.
Yeah, I'm sure it has a standard warranty. It's just they didn't include it, and I would want to make sure that they get that when they actually make the purchase. But
Right.
I don't know if the number, if we modify the motion to include I don't know, do we do anything for delivery and setup? I don't know. Or do we just
Let's
leave
see.
it as it is?
So actually, it on the second line, it says factory freight and what's PDI? I don't know what PDI is. Is that set up?
Delivery inspection,
Delivery and what? Oh, and inspection.
pre-delivery inspection.
Pre-delivery inspection. Okay. So it's that's all just covering the freight to, is that to here or to the dealer? That might be delivery then. I guess we could I'll just confirm that factory freight includes delivery.
I mean, it's possible because it's only in Linden that someone from Sudden Valley could also go pick it up. We have equipment, we could probably pick that
Yeah.
up, but it also does give us $1,600 from the next price point if we do need to pay for delivery.
To the next lowest bid, you mean?
Yeah, John Deere is about $1,600 more, and
Mhm.
then they go up from there. So there is some room if we wanted them to deliver it.
Yeah. Oh, we'll see if we can get them to deliver it. It seems, yeah. Like you say, it's not that far and we've got some trailers and things.
What is the standard warranty on those? I mean, what would you expect? I kind of just Googled it to see what that particular mower, just what the internet says it is, and it says it's basically a 2-year 1,000-hour, which 1,000 hours is not a really huge warranty.
Yeah. 2 years sounds good. But
But if you hit the 1,000 hours before the
yeah, I
two
think
years,
you could hit well, let's see, 1,000 hours. That's if you
it's
did.
not very many.
Probably not gonna be able to run every day, but in the summer. And let's see.
They're fairly standard. But I'm just kind of noticing that they're asking
Nice.
us to approve the allocation of 21,146, which is the price. So even though Kubota is saying it doesn't include delivery, I mean that's the total price they're asking for. So they probably have delivery figured out between Sudden Valley and Schulten's.
Yeah. Seems like if they were gonna charge delivery, they would have put it in there. Well, a couple good questions there, delivering warranty. But I think you're right, probably roughly the 2-year warranty and certain number of hours, 1,000 hours or whatever. Pretty standard stuff. Well, I'm sure they're eagerly anticipating this growing grass and wanting to get on top of it, so. Are we comfortable moving this forward?
I'm just gonna have to change the wording of the motion again, Rick.
Let's see, is that? Yeah. It's written as it's written for the board, yeah. Okay, let's see. I'll move that the Finance Committee recommend to the SVCA Board of Directors to approve the allocation of $21,146 from SURF for the purchase of a Kubota ZD1211R zero-turn mower for the maintenance department and authorize the maintenance and facilities manager to coordinate with the finance director to complete the purchase. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
I,
Maybe it's a muted mics, but any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Let's see, and then. Okay, Joel, we're ready for some numbers. So I think this is addendum 4, yeah.
Okay, so we're finally to the best part.
Yeah, the best part.
The rest of it is just filler until we get to this.
That's right, I know. Spoken
All
like a
about
true
you, Joel.
accountant. Huh?
I'll just share my screen here. Okay, good. So I take it everyone can see the balance sheet here.
Yep.
What I'm going to do, in the interest of time, since obviously this was like a rescheduled meeting and stuff, I'm just going to hit the highlights and that's it. We'll just hit the most important things and then we'll be done with this. And so for that matter, the balance sheet, we're just going to skip over this. There is nothing really huge to point out on the balance sheet that I haven't pointed out like in December. So we'll just go ahead and get to the brass tacks, so to speak, and we'll go to the income statement. So what we're looking at here is, obviously, this is the January 2025 income statement. And so the good thing is whether we're looking at the current month or the year to date, it makes no difference since it's 1 month. Since obviously we're just finished with the first month of the year. Okay, so the first thing I'll point out here is obviously we budget at 95% for the year 2025, fiscal year 2025. That's what all the dues are in all of our expenses and operations revolves around a 95% collection rate. And you'll see that the collection rate in January is 92.7%. Obviously, this for the first month of the year, it's 92.7%, which is below 95%. And so some of them might think, oh, this is terrible. We're already starting out under budget. But this is how this place historically goes in terms of January is always our lowest collection rate. And then we build up from there through the end of the year. So like, for example, January 2024 was 93.7%. January 2023 it was 92.2%. And just as a reference point, January 2023, like I said, is 92.2%. December, at the end of the year, 2023, we finished out with a 97.93 collection rate. And then January 2024, it was 93.7%, but we finished out the entire year at the end of 2024 with a 97.95% collection rate. And I calculated the collection rate already for February. And so it's 92.7% at the end of January. And then at the end of February of 2025, it has already gone up to 94.6%. So you can see basically the point is don't be alarmed about a 92.7% collection rate at this point. Now, skipping down, I might as well point out too, so since we do budget a 95% collection rate, and like I said, at the end of 2024, we finished out at a 97.95% collection rate. So basically for every 1% that we finish over the collection rate, so let's just say we get to the end of 2025 and we finish out at just to keep this simple, at a 96% collection rate. Well, then that would mean that Ops would take in an additional 28,561, SERP would take an additional 14,463, Roads would take an additional 14,875, mailboxes additional $266. So that's for every 1% above our 95% collection rate. Obviously, the maximum for Ops would be, let's just say if we finished out for some reason at a 100% collection rate, then operations would take an additional 142,804 over budgets. That just gives you an example. That would be the maximum that we would take on. And so speaking of operations, let's just go ahead and focus down here at the bottom line of operations. So you can see we're looking at the operations column right here. Like I said, this is the only month where it doesn't matter if we look at this month to date or year to date, since obviously we're in January. So you can see that at the end of January, we had $116,638 of operating net income. Now, this will be the important thing that I'll point out. So at the end of January 2024, as a reference, we had $176,710 in operating income. But there is one difference here in terms of this year than the previous year, and that is 2020. In 2025, January, just so happens, we always have 2 months out of the year where we have 3 payrolls that just land. And usually we'll go ahead and just expense the payroll in the month that it hit, the month that it gets paid out, that it hits, like the payroll date, so to speak. And so January had, with the exception of year end, so obviously at year end, well, I'll explain that here in a second, but January has 3 payrolls. The year before that, we had 2 payrolls. So now in January, at the end of the year, that's when we do accrue payroll back into a previous year. So if we pay out payrolls in January, then I'll take a look at, like, for example, at the end of 2020, or at January 2024, we had 2 payrolls. That first payroll in January, all of that time worked was in December of the previous year. So that whole payroll gets accrued back into the year before that. Now, this year, 1.2 payrolls out of those 3, that was time worked in 2024. So 1.2 payrolls also gets accrued back into 2024. So where I'm going with this is January 2024, what you saw in the payroll numbers, that was 1 payroll. And then January of 2025, that was 1.8 payroll. So we have almost another full payroll this month than we did in this January than we did in the previous January 2024, which obviously affects the numbers. So January payroll expense has an additional $68,487 more in it than we did in January 2024. Now, once we get to March, last year, the first pay period where we had 3 payrolls was in March. Once we get to March of this year, all of this will smooth out and it won't make a difference. And coincidentally, both last year and this year, we'll have 3 payrolls in August as well. So once we get to March, it'll totally be apples to apples. So I just wanted to point out that you could think about it this way. We had, if I were to take that 116,638 and then add back the $487 of additional payroll expense, then that would push us up around 185,000, which is fairly close to January 2024, when I pointed out we had about 177,000 as an operating net income for January. So we're fairly close to where we were last year once you take that into account. That's really the main takeaway from this. And now, of course, now the budget at $5,204 better than budget. This budget takes into account the fact that we have 3 payrolls, that we're looking at, like in January, or it's taking into account that we have about 1.8 payrolls that will hit in January for an expense. The rest, like I said, have been pushed back into 2024 where they belong. I'll talk about this capital reserve sheet just very quickly. So this is a really handy sheet. And as you can see, we start out with this top line number, the net available cash at the end of 12/31/2024. So if we just look at SURF, that 3,074,179. If I flip back to the balance sheet, there's that 3,074,179 for well, you get the point for SURF. And then here's the ending balance for SURF at the end of January, 3,053,060. If I go back here again, there's that 3,053,060 ending balance at the end of January 2025. So basically in between what we have are dues received. This is cash coming in the doors, dues collections. We have some interest income. We have expenditures. These are checks that we wrote, money that went out the door to pay for capital projects, SURF loan payments, stuff like that. And then down below this 11-month outlook, what we're looking at here is this is the budgeted amount of dues at a 95% collection rate that are budgeted to come in for the remainder of the year, so the next 11 months. The big thing here would be SURF loan payments, so another 11 months of SURF loan payments, because the board approved back when we did this last 2022 SURF loan, the board approved for the payments to come out of SURF. So you'll see that's 11 more payments for the year, February through December. And then the obligated expenses holdings number, this is a big number, 968,967. Obviously, this is, I'll just go ahead and flip to this. So there's that 968, 967 amount right here. And this is everything that the board has approved. So through January, these are all the approved projects. You'll see many of them are already marked closed, because we'll close those out to fixed assets. We'll take them out of construction in progress, put them in fixed assets as part of like 2024 year-end procedures. We do have one project, looks like the adult center furnace. It's a good thing, I'll just point this out. Looks like they came in over at 2,166. Then the question would be, well, what about that overage? Where will that go? Well, I'll put it into maintenance. I'll take it out of the maintenance operations budget for going over, so to speak. Meaning we'll only pay out this $42,422. We'll only take that away from SURF, since that's what the board approved. And then that overage will go to operations maintenance. And the next page, the roads sheet, exact same thing. All the projects that are open in roads that the board has approved through January 2025, anything with the red dot, will close those out. And we could also end up closing some more things out, and like this street sign replacement, $548. This is where like it's just kind of inside baseball, but I'll reach out to Mike and ask him, hey, are you done with this? Or is there a permit or something that could still come through, for $500 or, but then I'll get a finalized kind of listing of everything I'll close out. And then it'll be closed out as of the last month that, like, let's just say, well, this Deer Run Lane and culvert replacement, it will be closed out in the month that we finish this project. So if we finished with this back in May, whatever, of 2024, then it'll be closed out as of May of 2024, then it'll start to be depreciated in that month forward. And the last sheet, the UDR sheet, you can see it's the exact same drill. Obviously, this UDR fund is a fund that only the board can approve what comes out of that. You can see the only real open stuff would be, we do have some money, looks like $7,722 more than what was than what was budgeted for the GM search. So now we have a situation, and this is kind of the reverse, to where the board approved $32,850 to be paid out from UDR for the 2024 GM search. We paid out to date through the end of January, $25,128. So we still have $7,722 that we still could pay out, but that's over. So then basically the board would then say deobligate this. Then when it's deobligated, then the $7,722 amount no longer is obligated out of UDR. It's more money that is at the board's discretion to spend. But you can see the GM searches there, the legal expense for past due collections is really the only thing open. We do have a couple thousand left from Firewise that could be chipped away at, and this Area Z mitigation. This has been hanging around for quite a while that we could potentially take money for too, but we could deobligate that as well. And that would be the board's prerogative to do that. But you'll see that $20,653 for UDR. I'll just now go back to the financial statement. There's the $20,653 of possible, obligated amounts. So that's how much we could write checks for, so to speak. The board has approved for us to write, meaning to spend on open projects. And since I'm talking about UDR, I'll go ahead and point out too, this is a good time to point that out, because a lot of people, they want to know what is this UDR? So UDR stands for Undesignated Reserve Fund. And where this money comes from, like for example, how cash gets into this fund is obviously with our dues. So your dues payment that you pay every single month has a operations component, a SURF component, a roads component, a mailbox component. Now, since we're in 2025, if they had past dues, past due dues that they owe, so meaning anything in a prior year, so December 2024 and earlier, when they pay those dues, when they pay their balance down, then the operation component of the 2024 dues or earlier, that goes to UDR when we collect it. So when someone pays dues, the only thing they had outstanding was their December 2024 dues, and everything else was they were paid up. Well, the operations portion of that December 2024 dues payment goes into this UDR account. The SURF account, the SURF portion goes into SURF like normal, roads goes into roads like normal, mailbox goes into mailbox like normal, but the operating portion of that does not show up in here. So like now you're looking at the income statement. So past due operation portion of dues, meaning in this example, the 2024 dues payment that this hypothetical individual is now paying in, we'll just say in January, the operating portion of that 2024 dues payment is not in operations here in income. It's actually now going to show up down in here in UDR and show up on the UDR financial statement. And then obviously these funds, they build up over time. As you can see, we have $333,824, and then this is at the board's discretion when to obligate money out of this account. Like things like additional supplemental hazardous tree removal funds, GM search, as you saw, things like that. Unplanned expenditures can be taken out of UDR. But then you'll see, if we go back to the SURF example, the net usable cash at the end, this is projected at the end of 12/31/2025, $3,056,535. This $600,000 is board recommended carryover balance. This is literally just saying the board would not like to drop below $600,000. So they want to have at least $600,000 in the account in SURF. So then once that's subtracted away from this 3 million number, now we're looking at the end of 2025, the board has potentially $2,456,535 that they would have at the end of that balance. And then when they And obviously, these sorts of balances work their way into like capital project, 10-year capital project plans, and so on and so forth. And when boards obligate money, future projects, then it chips away at that available balance. And it's the same basic system for roads. It's the same drill for mailboxes. And like I said, UDR is handled very similar to that as well. Now go ahead and go. The good thing is that the last two things we'll talk about, and one of these we're not going to talk about because the next two pages that we'll hit on is, so this is, you're looking at the income statement, but now this is segregated by department. It's broken down by department. You can see there's that 116,638, the operating net income. And now you can see which department contributed to that. So the first page will always be the current month, only the month of January. And the second page, now this is 1 month where it makes no difference. The second page will be year to date. So it really doesn't matter this month which one we look at. Usually, a lot of times I'll skip over the month to date and focus on the year to date, depending, especially once we get later on into the year, like we're in September or whatever. Obviously, it makes more sense just to focus more. It's really more relevant just to look at the 9-year period instead of focusing on one particular month, because sometimes expenses can just fall in a particular month when it wasn't necessarily planned to fall in there. Maybe it was planned to fall in August instead of July or whatever, but looking at it year to date becomes more relevant that way. But you can see this is where, as I said, operating net income, 116,638. I'm going to go ahead and focus on golf because I focus on this. Golf is our biggest revenue generator for departments. You can see here actual revenue for golf is 177,775, as opposed to of January 2024. The actual revenue in January 2024 was 167,091. So it looks like golf is about $10,684 greater or higher revenue-wise for January, at the end of January year to date than it was at the end of January of 2024. Now so right here is the actual salary benefits, 51,812, and the all other expenses, 44,215. Those two numbers added together come up to $96,027 for golf expenditures. And last year for the same period is 50,481. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, well, of course I bring it up month to month, but it's more interesting this month because number one, I pointed out the payroll difference at the end of January 2025 versus 2024. Obviously, this has an effect on golf as well. So at the end of January of 2024, since one of those payrolls was accrued back into 2023 in that case, that means January 2024, golf had one payroll in there in January. Well, now this year they have 1.8 payrolls in there for the reason that I just already described for the income statement. So that means golf has an additional $23,995 payroll expense in here, so to speak, that was not in there in January of 2024. And that's just like I said, just a matter of timing. But if I were to basically strip that away, then let's just focus on this. So the net income for golf at the end of January 2025 in this case was 81,748. Net income at the end of January 2024 was 116,610. However, if I adjusted for that $23,995 of extra payroll in here to make it more apples to apples, then their adjusted income would be, net income would be 103,299, which gives it more back up into the ballpark of where they were at the end of January 2024. And but that I think pretty much covers like the real highlights of the financial statements to take into account. If anyone had any questions for these.
So I just wanted to point out a couple of things, Joel. Thank you for that informative summary of January 2025. when you were referring to the projected net usable cash in SURF and roads and mailbox at the end of December this year, that number, for example, the SURF number, 2.456535 million, in our reserve study, that number gets rolled over as the starting amount for next year, correct?
That's correct. If everything, meaning if we made no other changes to this.
Yeah.
But
If your
also,
prediction was, yeah.
yeah, but plus also like on the 2025 SURF column, we have a bunch of, like projects out there that will be, essentially we're planning to approve.
Yes.
Then that would lower this amount too, this 2,456,535. Since it's this obligated expenses. So like as soon as the board approves another project, then it's going to increase this negative obligated expenses amount, which will drag down this, ultimately pull down this 2,456,000.
Right. So, okay, so that number doesn't include the ones that are in the reserve study for this year, other than the ones we've already allocated.
No, that's correct.
Okay, so it'll be more like around about $1 million less, roughly. I think is what we've got allocated coming up. But my point is that even though it looks like we're going to have over $1 million, even after allocations for the coming year in the account at the end of the year, our reserve study, if you look down the road 7, 8, 9 years, those numbers get very small based on the reserve study going forward. So it's not like initially I was thinking, well, wow, we got over $1 million there. We could maybe use that for something else that we're planning to do. But in essence, we can't. We're so tightly budgeted going forward in the reserve plan that that money really can't be touched with any long-term look, because it will end up putting us in the negative in about 5 or 6 years when we get down to around 200,000 balances on some of those.
Yeah, that's correct.
The other thing I wanted to point out that you and I had talked about last week was the policy on the emergency ops. And as you explained to me, the emergency ops is set up, intended to be set up to cover 2 months of operating costs, as kind of like you would in your home budget, to have a certain amount of money set aside to cover in case of some catastrophic change in economic climates or income. What we have there, though, is more closer to 1 month of operating expense. Is that right?
Yeah, it's matter of fact, this is the one column. Yes, this emergency ops column right here. Our policy, like Rick said, it's intending to cover a couple of months, 2 months of operating expenses. How many months would that really cover? It depends, I guess, on if we really tighten our belt, then it
Right.
it could, stretch out a lot more to 2 months. But that's realistically, with no belt tightening whatsoever, that's realistically closer to 1 month.
Right. So we're a little lean in that department just based on our own policy. But like you say, certainly we could adapt to some catastrophic change in circumstances. But all right. Any other questions from the committee for Joel? Sounds like you want to get on with your evening. Oh, no, that's good. Okay, so I will take those suggestions. We'll look at the 5-hour per day construction management aspect of the bridge constructions and inquire about delivery and warranty issues with the zero turn mower. And otherwise, thank you all for helping to make quorum tonight. Appreciate that very much. The board appreciates that very much, so that we can move ahead with these capital requests recommendations. And any other news or announcements? Otherwise, we'll plan on a Zoom meeting on April 16th at 6:30 p.m.
Yes,
And
we kind of missed announcements, so I think I have one really quick one. And
okay,
maybe you can just do your safety committee one quickly, Rick. Just kind of
yeah,
reminding people, and I know we don't have a huge audience for finance, but we do have a seniors high tea that we're planning just to recognize our senior members. It's April 4th. It is free. There'll be sandwiches and goodies and tea. And I would really encourage, if you know some seniors that may need, just want to get out and have a little bit of a social time, it'll be upstairs in the barn. And we just kind of like to make a nice day for them. And then Rick, I know
yeah,
you have
yeah.
a
That sounds great. I'm sorry I'm going to be out of town. I maybe qualify myself as a senior and show up, but sounds like it's going to be a fun time.
qualify.
Um,
Um,
yeah, so the safety committee is going to hold another wildfire prevention workshop. We're calling it this year, bringing in some experts to talk about what you can do to help mitigate the risk of spreading of a wildfire should that occur. That's going to be held on May 12th. That's a Monday night, 6:30 in the dance barn, the big barn. And it should be a really good meeting. There'll be a nice video, and we're going to have an extended time for Q&A, questions and answers, to try and help people figure things out as best they can. We're hoping to get a couple of residents who have gone through the Firewise program, who they had a consultant come out and advise them how they can best prepare the grounds around their homes to reduce the spread of fire. And we're going to try to get one or two of those folks to share their experiences about that. And hopefully, I'm hoping we'll see some before and after pictures. But it should be a good, very informative meeting. In addition to that, we will look for the announcement in the View about the Firewise program, where you're able to take those large limbs and branches that got knocked down in the windstorms way back from November, and then more recently the other day, take them out to the street, and the staff come around and chip those up. It's not intended for your grass clippings and your tree trimmings and stuff. It's mostly just to get those big, heavy limbs that have broken off from natural causes out of your yard or adjacent green space to help reduce the fuels nearby.
Rick, and while I think of it, one more announcement is there is a movie night in the barn this Friday night.
Oh.
Free movies for kids.
Do you know what
It's
time
usually
that is?
popcorn.
Do you know the
That's all
time
I
for
got.
that time?
Pardon me? I can look. I know it was on Facebook. If you give me 2 seconds, Kathy or Mary, do you remember seeing it?
But I can hop on if you can't. I can.
Uh, it was on a number of the Facebook pages. It's always so hard trying to find something again, but it's always a really well-attended event. Okay.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
It's a race for who can find it first.
That that is one little pet peeve I have. I wished our calendar on the uh, website was
They're working, I've noticed them working on trying to make it better, but it is definitely not as good as it should be.
yeah, I keep hearing that we're getting a new web page or host or something like that, but it seems like it keeps getting pushed out a little bit. Hopefully it happens.
Your Facebook pages, and I probably should have looked it up before I said anything, but it is this Friday. I will make an announcement again at the board meeting on Thursday, but the minute I
Oh,
try to
that'll be
find
good,
it
yeah.
quickly, I can't.
they-
Um,
Don't they have
Sorry,
it like in
Kathy?
their do they have it in their rec announcements? Maybe, no?
Probably not. It probably will go out on the e-blast on Friday, just because they've been trying to add a lot more. But I know.
I don't know. See if I There's a
Can't
lot
find
of-
it right now. But it's not gonna be super late. Just kind of look around on Facebook and we'll make sure it goes out on the e-blast. And I will announce it on Thursday as well.
Sounds good.
But it's a
All
fun
right.
free event for members of the valley.
Yeah. Sounds great. Okay.
But we find it as soon as we sign off.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, there's a lot of junk in here.
Right, well, thanks, everyone. Appreciate all your time tonight.
Yes, thank you all. And with that, I think I'll adjourn the meeting at 8:08. Thanks
All right.
so much.
Good night, everyone.
Yeah.
Night.